I once had a very strange dream about a young woman who was very thin and tall. There was nothing very strange about her, except about the fact that her bones were transparent. She was the tallest woman in all of early New York, about 1856. She had long flowing hair. She was just beautiful, but she had trouble finding dates. But one day she found one at the harbor that she worked at. That man was almost 7 feet tall, so they were the perfect couple. They walked through town together. They visited different places together. They ate together. They were the perfect couple. They visited each other on a regular basis, and they even worked together, because the man also worked at that harbor. But one day, the man proposed to the woman, and she said yes. They got married 6 months later. As the weeks flew on, they continued to spend time together. They lived with each other now, and were talking about having a child. They worked together, they ate together, and they loved each other, and they enjoyed every bit of it. But all of that was about to change. One day, the woman came home, and she was fired from her job, and so was the man for some reason. I don't know why. My dream didn't tell me. They started running out of money. Their home was collapsing, and their bills were piling up. They were getting really depressed and stressed out. They started fighting. And one day, this all went to a climax. It was a cold and rainy day. It was a day before Thanksgiving. And the man called his wife into the living room. And she walked into the living room, and the man, he was holding something behind his back. His wife got closer, and the man started talking to her. I don't know what he was saying. And he pulled the thing out from what was behind his back and jabbed it into her chest. I'm guessing it was a knife. She screamed and eventually couldn't scream anymore because there was blood filling her throat. She collapsed to the floor. I saw the man in my dream. He pulled up a rug that was on the living room floor, and there was a hatch. He opened up the hatch and dumped the body in there. I don't know why that he killed his wife, but that's what he did to himself too. He took the knife and stabbed it into his throat after covering up the hatch that was in the living room. They lived a little ways outside of the suburban areas of New York City. It was generally quiet out there, and barely anybody went by. And since they were both fired from their jobs, they won't be reported as missing, so they just stayed in their homes. Year after year, they decayed, till eventually they were both skeletons. The man's skeleton was normal, but the woman's skeleton, the bones on her skeleton, were completely transparent. Now this is where I took place in the dream. I don't know when, but probably 150 years later. I have this thing where I like to go into abandoned places and explore, so that could explain why the moment I saw that abandoned house that the couple used to live in, I went in there. And it was all broken down, and there was animal droppings scattered everywhere. And that's when I saw the human skeleton, the 7-foot tall human skeleton, lying on the floor, bones scattered everywhere. Now I started freaking out at this point, because I just found a human skeleton in an abandoned house. I didn't know what to do, so I figured if I called the police, they would assume that I had something to do with it, but the bones looked old. I called one of my friends, and he came over. He showed up in less than 10 minutes, and I explained what happened. And he said that we should explore the house some more, and I'm like, no, there could be traps in here. So we get into this argument, and eventually curiosity got the better of me. I decided it would be awesome to explore the house some more. The rest of the house was normal, broken down and stuff. And then we decided it'd be awesome if we took a video of this place and to see if we can catch any ghostly images flying by, and my God, we did. We recorded a video in the living room, and we sat on the couch and just let the camera roll. After about a couple minutes or so, we got the camera again and we reviewed the footage. And what we saw next made my heart sink. I don't know about his. Two tall people, one was a woman and one was a man, walked into the room. They were ghostly. They were spirits that just walked into the room, and we saw them talking to each other, and their heads just drooped down and looked at the floor towards the rug that had been lying there, and they both pointed to it and were talking. Probably something about that rug. The man had to be at least 7 feet tall, and the girl was 6.5 feet tall. No one knew their names. After calming down about what we just witnessed, we figured out that they were talking about the rug that was on the living room floor that was amazingly still intact. So was the couch they were sitting on. We went to the rug on the living room floor, and we rolled it out from its position, and there was a hatch, broken down wooden hatch, there was a lock on it, and it was obviously useless because it had rusted through. So we opened up the hatch, and there was a ladder, and it was safe because it was intact. We climbed down into the basement or whatever it was, probably a cellar, and what we saw next was terrifying. There, laying in front of us, was another tall skeleton just laying on the floor, and the strangest part about it was the bones were transparent. We could see through them. They were just milky white bones that we could see through. So we both get scared, and we were like, nope, we're done with this. So we climbed back up the ladder quickly, and my stomach almost dropped what I saw next. There, towering over us, was a 7-foot tall, ghostly image of a man that we can see with our own eyes. So we stumbled backwards, and we were just terrorized. No, we were terrified, and then we saw another tall, ghostly image just float into the living room that we were both in. It was a woman, about 6.5 feet tall. It was the couple that died 150 years earlier. They start floating towards us ever so slowly, and all we can do is just sit there and watch. We were petrified with fear, and then I wake up. And when I wake up, it's 8:30 in the morning in real life. So I'm a little bit terrified about the dream I had just a couple minutes earlier, and out of curiosity, I pulled up my phone and I looked up transparent bones, And the story that I just told now wasn't an actual, what isn't real. It just happened in my dream, not in real life. But there is such thing as transparent bones, and there are people out there walking and breathing with them.